I walked into the bank to pay my final semester's tuition and found the account was empty. Then I saw who withdrew it. The manager looked at me like I was lost. Maybe I was. I stared at the screen, blinking at the rows of zeros where my savings should have been. $17,234. Gone, all of it. Transferred out in 3 chunks over the last 2 weeks. The recipient? A name I knew better than my own. Dad. My throat closed. I didn't say anything at first. I just stood there, letting the weight of it settle in, like standing in an earthquake that hadn't quite stopped shaking. The clerk asked if I was okay. I nodded. I wasn't. I walked out into the sun, which felt too bright, too clean. The sidewalk spun a little under my feet. People passed me, laughing, talking, alive. I was in another world now, a colder one. By the time I reached my car, my hands were trembling. I unlocked the door, sat inside, shut it. Stillness. Then the pressure hit. Why would he... I stopped mid-sentence, talking to no one. The car stayed parked for a long time. My phone buzzed once. Dad. I didn't answer. He left no message. I drove home, slowly. Not our family house. My apartment, 1 bedroom, paper-thin walls, leftover spaghetti in the fridge. I sat on the floor. Laptop open, bank statements, account history, transaction receipts, his name over and over. He used our joint account, the one we set up when I was 16. Just in case something happened, he said. Safety, trust, a father looking out for his son. Except now it wasn't safety, it was theft. I kept seeing it, his name under recipient. Like a brand burned into every line, I knew I had to call him. Not for answers, I didn't expect honesty, but for confirmation. Proof. Maybe I still believed this was some mistake. A glitch. Maybe there was an explanation. So I called. He answered on the second ring. Hey kid, everything all right? His voice was light, almost cheerful. You emptied the account, I said. A pause, barely a second, then, I needed it, just for a little while. What? I'll put it back, you know I will. For what? What did you use it for? Another pause, longer this time. Don't get dramatic, it's not the end of the world. It was my tuition, Dad. I raised you, didn't I? Fed you, clothed you. Come on, don't make this a thing. It was already a thing. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just listened. I realized, slowly, he wasn't sorry. He didn't think he had done anything wrong. To him it was still his money, because I was still his. I trusted you, I said. Silence. Then he hung up. That was the moment something broke. Not loud, not with fury, just a quiet, cold snap, like a rope that finally frayed and split. I sat for a long time in the dark, the laptop screen still glowing with his name. My name. Our name. I started to think, when did it all begin? When did I start handing over pieces of myself and calling it love? And why did it take this long to see I was just a resource? That's when the story really starts. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on my back, staring at the ceiling, listening to the hum of the fridge, the occasional car passing outside. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the account summary again. My name. His name. $0. By morning, I had convinced myself to wait. Maybe he'd transfer something back. Maybe it really was temporary. Maybe he was in some kind of trouble. I even drafted a message, then deleted it. Then wrote it again, then deleted it again. Around noon, I opened my phone and went to his Facebook. He'd posted a photo just 2 days ago, him on a boat. Smiling, holding a glass of something expensive. Caption, work hard, play harder. I stared at it for a long time, then I checked the comments. My aunt had written, looks amazing, you deserve it. My cousin left heart emojis. My grandmother just wrote, be careful, sweetheart. None of them knew, or maybe they did. That thought stuck in my throat like a bone. I scrolled through old photos, looking at them like they were crime scene evidence, vacations, family dinners, birthday parties. In almost every one, he was at the center, talking, laughing, dominating the frame. In one, I was about 12, sitting beside him on a couch, holding a gaming controller. I remembered that day. He made me stop playing because he needed the TV. "You can do that later," he'd said. "I've got a call with the client. Be useful. Get me a drink, will you?" I'd gone without a word. Back then it felt normal. Now it felt like training. That afternoon I drove to my grandmother's house. She lived 30 minutes out, near the river. Her place smelled like lemons and old books. I hadn't told her yet. She opened the door with a smile that faded the second she saw my face. "What happened?" she asked. I told her everything. She didn't interrupt, not once. Just listened, hands folded in her lap, nodding occasionally. When I finished, she leaned back and let out a long breath. "I'm sorry, honey," she said, "but I'm not surprised." That hit harder than I expected. "What do you mean?" I asked. She got up, walked into the kitchen, and came back with tea and a folder. The folder was old, worn edges, my name written in faded marker. She placed it on my lap. "Open it." Inside were letters, receipts, notes I'd written as a kid, a report card from 7th grade, a few photos, and a printed email dated 10 years ago, from Dad to her. The subject line, loan. It was a detailed request for money, 25,000 citing temporary hardship and family obligations. He'd promised to pay it back in 6 months. She tapped the page. He never did. Not a cent. I read the email again, then looked up. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I didn't want you to grow up hating him," she said softly. "I thought maybe he'd change." He didn't. No, he didn't. We sat in silence. The tea went cold between us. She finally said, "You have to protect yourself now, not just from him, but from the guilt he's trained into you." That night I didn't go home. I stayed in her guest room, surrounded by the faint scent of lavender and old wood. I stared at the ceiling again, but this time I wasn't just confused. I was remembering. Flashback. I was 17. I'd just gotten accepted into a summer science program, full scholarship. All I needed was airfare. He said no. "You'll have plenty of time for that stuff later," he told me. "We've got a family trip coming up. You'll thank me someday." I didn't argue. I stayed home. Now I saw it for what it was. Control, wrapped in concern, disguised as care. It wasn't just the money. It was the years. The pattern. He'd been drawing the lines of my life in invisible ink and calling it love. And I had let him. Not anymore. Not of things to do, but of things I knew. Cold, hard facts. The money was gone. My father took it. He didn't think it was wrong. He wasn't going to give it back unless I made him. I stared at that last point for a long time. My hand trembled slightly, pen still resting on the paper. Then I wrote a 5th line. 5. I am not his son anymore. Not like that. It felt like a betrayal to write it. But the truth was, he'd betrayed me first. Repeatedly. I just hadn't wanted to see it. I spent the day gathering paperwork. I called the bank and requested official transaction records. I downloaded every statement from the past 3 years. Then I called my university's financial aid office, explained the situation without going into detail, and asked for a payment extension. They gave me 2 weeks. That night, I sat with Grandma again, and we went over everything. She had an old friend who used to work in family law, and she offered to make a call. "You need more than anger," she said. "You need leverage." She was right. The next day, I met with her friend, a retired attorney named Howard. He was quiet, almost gruff, but his eyes were sharp. "Joint account, huh?" he muttered, flipping through my papers. "How old were you when it was opened?" 16. "Did you put the money in yourself?" "Yes." "Did he ever contribute?" "No." He looked up. "Good, that's important." "But he had full access." "Doesn't mean he had the right to take it. You can argue implied trust, especially if the funds were earmarked for tuition." He paused. "You have texts, emails, anything proving he knew the money was for school?" I hesitated, then remembered. I pulled out my phone, scrolled back 6 months, and found it. A message I'd sent him when I got my last scholarship check. Just deposited the funds into our joint. That should cover spring semester. Thanks again for setting the account up, he replied. Of course, kid. Always got your back. Howard nodded slowly. That'll help. It's not ironclad, but it builds the story. He leaned forward. Now the question is, you want to file a claim, or use this to pressure him first? I didn't answer right away. A part of me still hoped he'd do the right thing, that if I confronted him armed with proof, he'd give the money back. Maybe not out of guilt, but out of fear. Howard read my hesitation. Look, he said, this isn't just about tuition. This is about power. If you let this go, he'll never stop. I nodded. I know. So I sent the message. It was simple, clean, clinical. Dad, I've spoken with a lawyer. I have records, messages, and full bank statements. You have 7 days to return the full amount before I take legal action. He didn't reply that day, or the next. On the third day, I got a call. Not from him, my aunt, his sister. Hey, sweetie, she said too brightly. Your dad told me you're upset. Can we talk? I didn't answer right away. She kept going. He's just stressed. Things have been hard lately. You know he loves you, right? I could hear it now, the machinery, the soft pressure, the guilt lever. Did he tell you what he did? I asked. She hesitated. He said there was some money issue, but come on, this is family. I laughed. Cold. Exactly. And I hung up. The old me would have apologized, would have explained. Now I just felt done. I opened my laptop and began compiling everything. Transaction IDs, timestamps, screenshots, messages. I wrote a summary, attached files, saved it in 3 places. 1 copy went to Howard, 1 to Grandma. That night I wrote a note to myself. Not a journal, just a sentence. He is not above consequences. I stared at the words for a long time, then I wrote another. And I am not below justice. Something had shifted. I could feel it. I wasn't trying to win him back anymore. I was trying to get myself free. He called me on the 5th day. No greeting, no small talk. You seriously want to drag your own father into court? I didn't answer. Over what? A misunderstanding? You stole from me, I said. Silence, then laughter. Not the amused kind, the ugly, mocking kind. Oh, come on. You're going to ruin your own family over some tuition money? After everything I've done for you? You did it for yourself, I said quietly. You ungrateful little... Click. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but I didn't cry. Not yet. I just sat there, staring at the wall like it might give me answers. The next morning, I got a notice. My university had revoked my extension. Payment was now due immediately. Apparently someone had called pretending to be me and said I was dropping out. I stared at the email in disbelief. A pit opened in my stomach. He wouldn't. But he did. I called the office. They said it was too late to reverse. I'd need to re-enroll next semester and reapply for aid, which meant losing my housing, my student job, my internship, everything. I went to the registrar's office in person, documents in hand, hoping to fix it. But the woman at the counter just gave me a tight smile and repeated, I'm sorry, but your file's already been processed. I left in a daze. The hallway stretched like a tunnel. Students passed me, laughing, scrolling, arguing over finals. And I just stood there, alone, useless. Back at the apartment, I opened the fridge. Empty. 1 jar of mustard and a half carton of expired milk. I sat on the floor, back against the cabinet. He didn't just want the money, he wanted the control. And when I resisted, he went further. He wanted me to collapse, crawl back. Say, you were right, I need you. I almost did. For 1 long, awful hour that night, I almost called. Almost deleted the files. Almost convinced myself this wasn't worth it. Who was I anyway? Just a broke student with no degree, no job, no place to go in 2 weeks. I stood in the bathroom, gripping the sink. My reflection looked like a stranger. Pale, hollow, weak. I punched the mirror. It didn't shatter, just cracked. A single line running diagonally across my face. That's when the tears came. Not loud, just silent streams. Salt in the split skin of my knuckles. I slid to the floor. For a moment I wanted to disappear. Just stop existing. No more choices. No more war. But then I thought of Grandma, of Howard, of the email I hadn't sent yet, and beneath all the exhaustion, a voice whispered, "If he's willing to go this far, imagine what he's done to others." That thought pulled me up, not out of hope, out of fury. It wasn't just personal anymore, it was a pattern, and maybe I was the first one to break it. I didn't sleep that night either, but this time the stillness felt different. Focused, like the pause before a blade drops. By sunrise, I had a new plan. I wasn't going to beg the university anymore. I wasn't going to argue with family. I wasn't even going to wait for Dad to strike again. I was going to expose him. I started by digging, old emails, bank records, even social media posts. I built a timeline, not just of my money, but of every financial accident I could trace. There were patterns, similar withdrawals from Mum's account before the divorce, cash advances on credit cards under my name when I was 19, a loan in my aunt's name that no one ever talked about. He'd been playing this game for years, with all of us, and we let him. Because he was charming, loud, confident, because he wore his selfishness like a suit and called it success. I reached out to my aunt again, this time not to argue, just to ask, "Did he ever borrow money from you?" Her silence on the phone lasted longer than I expected. Then, "He said it was for your college. Said you didn't know how to handle money." I closed my eyes. "How much?" "5,000. Did he pay it back?" Another pause. "No." One by one, I made the calls. Cousins, old friends, even Mom. The stories varied, but the script was always the same. Pressure, manipulation, disappearing money. Then guilt when they asked questions. I kept notes, recordings, screenshots. By the end of the week, I had a 10-page document and a folder full of testimonies. It wasn't just theft, it was a pattern of financial abuse. That's when I reached out to a friend from school, Noah. He was studying journalism, obsessed with exposés and whistleblowers. I sent him the file. He called back within an hour. "Jesus, man, this is serious." "I know. Are you okay with me publishing this, even anonymously?" I hesitated, then said, "Put my name on it." "You sure?" "Yeah, I'm done hiding." He published the piece on a student media site the next day. The father debt, a son's story of betrayal, control, and financial abuse. It wasn't viral, but it spread fast. Friends shared it. Professors, strangers. 2 days later, a local journalist reached out, then a podcast host. People began sharing their own stories in the comments. Stories that sounded like mine. And then the message came. From a woman named Dana. She worked at a non-profit that specialized in financial abuse cases, usually domestic partnerships, but sometimes families. "I read your piece," she wrote. "I think we can help." We met for coffee. She was sharp, direct, and carried a quiet rage that matched mine. "What he's done isn't just immoral," she said. "Some of it may be criminal, especially if there's proof of fraud." I handed her the files. She nodded. "Let's build this case." That night I called Grandma. She picked up on the first ring. "He's going to fight back," she said. "I know. And you might lose more family." I thought of the cracked mirror, the bleeding hand, the silence. "I already did," I said. "Now I'm finding something better." "What's that?" "Myself." She didn't speak, but I heard her breathing, steady, proud. The war wasn't over. He would lie, threaten, maybe even try to sue. But now I had something he couldn't control, truth, and the will to use it. I wasn't just reacting anymore, I was moving, strategically, quietly. Dana connected me with a legal advocate who specialized in restitution cases. She helped me formalize a complaint, citing misuse of shared funds, financial manipulation, and fraudulent impersonation, specifically the fake call to the university. This isn't just about money, she said. It's about establishing a pattern. He needs to be seen for what he is, a repeat offender. We filed the documents, civil, not criminal for now. The real goal was pressure. At the same time, Noah followed up the article with a recorded podcast episode. We sat in a quiet studio, just 2 mics between us. How did it feel? He asked, realizing your father saw you as a resource? I paused. Like I'd been sleepwalking for 20 years, I said, and someone finally turned on the lights. The episode gained traction, comments poured in. Students, adults, even older professionals. Some shared their own experiences, some offered advice. A few just said thank you. But one message hit differently. It came from a man named Elliot. I didn't know him, but he'd worked with my father. Years ago, a business partner briefly. His message was short. I believe you. He burned me too. If you need documents or verification, I've got them. We met the next day at a coffee shop downtown. He brought a folder. Inside were emails, bank statements, and a settlement agreement I'd never seen before. Apparently Dad had siphoned money from a shared investment account, years before I'd ever opened mine. This guy's a serial, Elliot said, but no one wants to cross him. He plays dirty. Be ready. I was. With Dana, Elliot, and the others, we compiled a comprehensive timeline. My case wasn't an isolated event. It was a link in a long chain. Then came the university hearing. With Dana's help, I appealed the dropped enrollment. We presented documents proving impersonation. Audio from the podcast, a letter of support from my professor. Even Elliot submitted a statement. After 2 tense hours in a small grey room, they agreed to reinstate my spot. Aid included. I walked out into the sunlight and didn't cry. Not this time. That night, I joined Dana at a panel event on financial coercion. Small audience, mostly students, survivors, advocates. When it was my turn to speak, I stood at the podium and looked out at the faces. I used to think loyalty meant obedience, I said. But now I know. Real loyalty starts with protecting yourself. Applause, not loud, but real. And then backstage, Dana turned to me and said, "Are you ready for the final step?" I nodded. "Then it's time," she said. "Let's serve him the papers, publicly. Not to humiliate, but so he couldn't deny it. He'd spent years operating in shadows. Now we'd bring him into the light. The papers were served at a networking event. He was a keynote speaker, another polished evening in a downtown hotel ballroom filled with small talk and slick suits. A photographer snapped pictures by the sponsor banner. Waiters passed champagne. It was the kind of place he thrived in, performing charm like it was oxygen. Dana and I waited near the back. I wore a dark blazer. She carried the envelope. "I know him," she whispered. "He'll try to turn this into a joke." "Let him try," I said. At exactly 7:40 p.m., as he finished a speech about trust and long-term partnerships, we approached the stage. He saw me and smiled. The mask slid into place effortlessly. "Hey, look who—" Dana stepped forward and handed him the envelope. He looked down at it, then up at me. "What's this?" "Legal notice," Dana said. "You're being sued for financial abuse, misrepresentation, and fraud. We've also submitted a report to the university and relevant agencies." The room had gone quiet. A few people turned. A few phones came out. He blinked, then gave a dry chuckle. "Seriously," he said, addressing the crowd now. "This is what it looks like when kids don't get their way. My son, he's confused, hurt. It's sad, really." He stepped toward me, voice low. "You think this makes you look strong?" "No," I said, "it makes me free." His face twitched. Then the flash went off. Someone had taken a photo, then someone else. I didn't know who. I didn't care. Dana turned to the crowd. "If anyone else here has experienced unethical behavior in dealings with this man, we urge you to come forward." More murmurs, more looks, some averted, some curious. He opened the envelope, scanned the first page, and tried to laugh again, but it caught in his throat. "This is nothing," he said. "You'll regret this." "No," I said quietly. I regret not doing it sooner. We turned and walked out. Outside, the night air was cool. The street buzzed faintly with taxis and voices. Dana exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for hours. That was clean, she said. He didn't see it coming. He never sees anyone else, I replied. Over the next week, the impact grew. The story made local news. Not as a scandal yet, but as a feature, a conversation starter. Financial abuse within families, what it looks like, how it hides. Noah followed up with another podcast episode. This one wasn't about pain, it was about reclamation. I told the full story. No filters. More people reached out. Elliot introduced me to 2 former colleagues who had NDAs. They couldn't speak publicly, but they sent letters privately to the court. Even my aunt sent a text. I didn't want to believe it. But now I can't unsee it. I'm sorry. I didn't reply. Not yet. As for him, he didn't go down without a fight. He filed a countersuit. Made statements, posted online about cancel culture and family betrayal. But no one rallied behind him. Too many people had seen the mask slip. Too many had been waiting for someone else to go first. In the end, his silence was louder than his defense. The court date was set. But I wouldn't be waiting for justice like a reward. I'd already taken what I needed, my agency, and now I could finally live without asking permission. His lawyer came alone, requested a delay, mumbled something about unforeseen complications. The judge denied it. The case proceeded without him. I sat in that sterile room, fluorescent lights, cheap carpet, the quiet shuffle of paperwork, and felt nothing. Not triumph, not anger, just silence. Outside the courthouse, I didn't wait for cameras or headlines. I walked past the crowd, past a man holding the door, past everything that used to define me. That night, I unpacked the last box in my new place. Small, clean, paid for with my own money. No one else's name on the lease. I poured a glass of water, sat on the balcony, looked out at nothing in particular. Then my phone buzzed. His name. I stared at the screen for a long time and pressed block.